meeting. Deborah Wilson.
Hi, I recently received public records responsive to a request I made for the mail flow rules applied to my email. And the records that were produced showed a whole list of my historical email addresses. The mail flow rule that was applied is that the recipient, my intended recipient, will never receive, at least not at first, my emails that I think I'm sending to them, in violation of the Constitution that gives me a right to address my elected officials for redress of grievances. Your manager has applied a rule to prevent me from communicating with my elected officials. Instead, it is directed toward management, so I'm unable to know whether or not the redress that I seek for my elected officials is ever received. Maybe they provide it to you, maybe they don't. I certainly attempted to email you all prior to this appointment of Jamie Dunne as chairman at our airport. The content of my email was such that I felt that it was a slap in the face to law enforcement that was here, even though he will no longer have authority over them in his position as chairman, that you had a show of force unlike only that's been seen once, to my knowledge, in the history of Illinois. The courage it takes for an entire police department to show up at Village Hall for a vote of no confidence in that man. And the only thing that I could think was the ancient Hebrew proverb that says, as a fool returns to his vomit, as a dog returns to his vomit, so a fool returns to his folly. My first night up here, I spoke to you about the former village president being on the road with his toll record showing at like 2:30 in the morning right by the Rivers Casino. Have you ever asked him who was in the vehicle with him that night? Because I don't think he was alone. I also tried to inform you all that Jamie Dunne, when he was with Buffalo Grove during his tenure there with the national, whatever, the police alarm system, the SWAT team, that he took $10,000 from that account and he was allowed to pay it back without adverse employment consequences. This was the email I attempted to send you all, but I don't know if you received it. So he has a history of misusing funds. The previous chairperson for the airport was Court Harris, or before Court Harris, his name was Tortolo. He was a retired judge from Cook County, and he was terminated because he, without approval from the airport board, spent, I think it was $5,000 on a sign, and they thought that was too much money, and so they fired him. So you have a history of an airport board that fired somebody for using their funds in a way that they didn't feel was appropriate, but at least Tortolo had the virtue of spending it actually on airport use. And this man that you're appointing to take over that position has a history of taking money for personal use and being able to replace it. The reason, before I spoke to the airport board at the meeting about that, I took Jamie Dunne out in the hall, and I said, this is what I'm hearing. I don't have enough turnaround time for FOIA to find out if it's true. And he didn't deny it. He just said it was exaggerated. So I think that choosing to appoint him tonight before public comment caused you to vote in a way without input from the public. Also, your manager prevented you from getting my email informing you of this history. So I just feel like I'm concerned because Ray Lang went to Catholic school with Jamie Dunne forever, and it seems like it's an effort to keep his lifelong friend employed and not really appointing someone who would really be the best representative of our interests. So, I suppose if they find out of any inappropriate removal of funds, they can do what they did with Tortolo and terminate him or bring an end to it. But I'm really concerned. We're in a law enforcement crisis ever since COVID. No one wants to do the job, and these guys had the courage to kind of tell you how they felt. I think you underestimate the damage that's going to do in our capacity to hire law enforcement moving forward. I'd like to commend to you Kopecky and Musolf in their wisdom. They closed down the previous benefit association after I had investigated about 5 years ago for misappropriation of funds. And they didn't even want to be part of that anymore. They just closed that up and started a new one. No one told me that. It was just my own investigation into the Secretary of State Corporation and LLC lookup, because they wanted to avoid the appearance of impropriety or even being associated with something like that. So I think that they would serve as an excellent object lesson to you for what wisdom is and in gaining public trust.